B1 brothers and sisters, welcome to Black Logic. As foundational Black Americans, we are standing up and fighting for our rights, resources, and benefits that this country owes to us. For far too long, illegal immigrants have been placed above us, receiving benefits and resources that should rightfully be ours. We are protesting against the injustice because we deserve fair treatment and the opportunities that they're providing for them and not for us, because we understand that our ancestors built this country with their blood, sweat, and tears, but yet we are still marginalized and neglected. And it's time for us to demand what is rightfully ours and fight back against the system of oppression, as we always have been doing since we landed in this country. We will not be silenced or sidelined any longer. So as me and my brother here, Torian Rain, break down how illegal immigrants are essentially receiving benefits and resources more so than foundational Black Americans, we must understand that these are the benefits and programs that our ancestors and those even in the civil rights movement was fighting for us to receive, that we're not receiving, and even during that time we haven't received it. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Torian Rain up. How you doing, brother?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being here with me this evening. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm not going to make any haste here. So the one thing I want to bring to the audience attention here is the welfare system that the illegal immigrants are using, that is being, I guess when we look at the billions of dollars that's being used to fund them to be in this country and all the things that we should receive. And now, don't get me wrong, I won't speak too much into conjecture, because some of us have benefited from some of these welfare programs, but not like people have think. It's not like we are receiving all of these benefits that the welfare true recipients are receiving. So this is coming from Center for Immigration Studies. It states that welfare used by immigrants and U.S. born. Okay. So it states here that 54% of households headed by immigrants, naturalized citizens, legal residents, and illegal immigrants use one or more major welfare programs. That this compares to 39% for U.S. born households. It goes on to state that 59% for non-citizens households, green card holders, and illegal immigrants, compared to household headed by the U.S. born immigrant headed households, have especially high use of food programs. That's your EBT, that's your food stamps, etc. 36% versus 25% of the U.S. born. It also goes into Medicaid, 37% versus 25% for U.S. born, and the earned income tax credit. The next line states that 59% of households headed by illegal immigrants. Now, that's just a funny thing. What's your take on that? This households that are led by illegal immigrants, Torian?
Well, it's a shame that being led in this establishment that they are illegally in. They should be led in their own homeland.
It's just, I guess it's staggering that even with the statistics that America reports, is that we're basically stating we are allowing illegal immigrants to be in the country, for one. Two, we are providing them benefits and resources that Americans, especially foundational Black Americans, not only owe and deserve and need. It states that 59% of households headed by illegal immigrants, also called the undocumented, use at least one major program. We have no evidence this is due to fraud. Among legal immigrants, we estimate the rate is 52%. So with that being said, foundational Black Americans are not immigrants. So who are truly the welfare recipients?
Definitely those coming from, as I like to call them, south of the Borderians, and or across the ponders, because some of them might not even come from across, from the south of the border, because you have even some like Chinese that coming in through California. So like They're coming in from different places from all over, and they're coming over and they're basically getting what would be the equivalent of a handout, the same handout that they tell us not to ask for when we talk about reparations and tangibles.
It goes on to state that illegal immigrants can receive welfare on behalf of U.S. born children. So those are the equivalents of what? Anchor babies, right? Tethers.
Yeah.
An illegal immigrant children can receive school lunch, breakfast, and WIC directly. A number of states provide Medicaid to some illegal adults and children, and a few provide SNAP. Several million illegal immigrants, 7 million illegal immigrants, also have work authorization. DACA, TPS, and some asylum applicants allow recipient of the EITC. This is so damn disrespectful because they're literally saying that illegal immigrants have work authorization.
And like it also says when it says that they can receive welfare on the behalf of U.S. born children, so they can just come over. So they can literally just come over here and get. And one thing I said a while ago, what they're banking on is for a lot of them to come over here and have children while they're here. So now their children are considered first gen born. So now they can be considered American.
Absolutely. And again, all the programs that Americans are that they have provided for Americans to use. And when you look at the numbers, right, you look at the percentage, it's staggering. It's stating that 59% of households headed by illegal immigrants. So we know that we have like over, 14, 15 million illegal immigrants. So we're stating out of that 15 million, there's at least 7 million people on welfare that are illegal, receiving the benefits that we should be receiving. And they have all this of programs. I'm not going to go through it all, family, but they're getting WIC. Of course, depending on what state you live in, whether you're in Chicago, New York, those are the usual suspects that people have really been harping on. But they're getting stipends of $2,000. They're getting credit cards. They're getting luxury apartments. They're getting work authorization.
Or they're shutting down places so they can have them be accommodated there because they ran out of space at the shelters.
Yeah, you know what? That is a weird phenomenon where you're asking American citizens to house people who are illegally in the country. It's funny that they never ask. Go ahead, brother.
Now, I talked about that a couple times. Like it was some lawmaker in Boston, I think it was, where they was asking the residents up there to open up their home to the south of the Borderians. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, y'all are the ones that's making like six figures, millions of dollars a year. Y'all have the more bigger homes and the mansions. Why aren't you opening up your doors to allow them to come in? I'm sure y'all have plenty of room, but you asking regular, everyday tax-paying citizens to do this, to open their home to a complete stranger. Some people don't even want to open up their home to family members. You want to have them open up their homes to someone they don't even know. I think you were muted.
I wonder if they're getting paid. What do you think?
I don't know. I didn't see anything in there when I was looking it up about a financial incentive for them to give. But even with that, that's still a risk that you're doing, because look at a lot of the news that has come out with a lot of the stuff they've been doing as of lately. I've actually started doing a series of like live streams called Illegal Migrant Madness, where I get like a horde of different topics about this, and it's got to the point where I get so many every single week that it's kind of hard to keep up. Wow. I said it's starting off really light with them just going around just like stealing out of stores, like retail stores and stuff like that, to the point where now it's gotten to the point where people's lives have been lost, or people have been violated. I don't want to say the actual word, but people have been violated, even down to children have been, touched. So I said what they're doing is whatever they were doing over in their homeland, they're bringing it over here, and they're doing it here.
And what we're finding out is that some of those countries, now this could just be rhetoric, this could just be rumors, and I'm trying to do a lot of research dealing with this, that they're simply opening up the floodgates of their jails and kind of herding the cattle towards the border to put their trash inside of America.
Pretty much.
Because illegal immigrants are often given preferential treatment when they come to this country, receiving assistance and opportunities that should be rightfully belong to foundational Black Americans. Because
Mhm.
if we're the most impoverished group, should we not receive the biggest benefits? And let's not just even get on reparations, because we know that's owed to us, that they're trying to benign neglect, as well as put in this buffer group in order to, I guess, dampen the amount that they owe us. They're saying, well, you guys are no longer one of our largest voting blocks, especially when it comes to the Democrats.
Yeah.
But we take a moment to consider the impact of policies that me and Afro Elite cover on Wednesday. Policies like affirmative action, even with civil rights, and now DEI, which were initially intended to address historical justice faced by us. But the key or the trick language that wasn't in there, they never stated that this was to target or specifically for foundational Black Americans.
Exactly. Like they're getting a whole bunch of, and notice the verbiage that they're using it too. Like they're calling them set asides and subsidies. They don't want to call it a handout, even though that's technically what it is. They're literally getting something handed right to them. As a matter of fact, going back to one of the live streams I did talking about another cluster of stuff going on, there was a meeting, I think like a town hall meeting in, I want to say Oregon, where you had them out there protesting, demanding that they get this money. Mind you, the money's coming directly from the taxpayers. So you, like, they literally out there protesting. They're waving their countries of origins flags out there on the doors, on the steps, demanding that they get this money. They're not asking, they're demanding.
They're demanding it.
Yeah, it's gotten to that point where they're not even asking for it. And the crazy part about it is they will bend the knee and end up most likely receiving it, and it's going to come on the taxpayers' dime.
I saw them protesting, and I also read about it. But the funny thing for me is, for a quick moment, maybe a millisecond, very fast, I was actually waiting for ICE to show up and say, oh, they're all here, and gather them up and flying back out. Because I know you heard about the Biden administration, and they keep saying secretly. And the reason why they're saying secretly is not that it was illegal. That's why they're saying secretly, because the program existed roughly, some parts of the program, roughly, and I forgot the name of the exact program, but it started back in the 1950s, where they were trying to alleviate some of the massive amount of people at the border. So they were literally flying illegals, and I think the number was like 330,000 during the Biden administration. They flew over 330,000 illegal immigrants and processed them in America. And they was doing this at night, and they dropped all these illegal immigrants off in 43 U.S. states. This is one of the things that we covered. And these are some of the things that, if we don't have people reporting this, the American citizens wouldn't know. They're like, well, we noticed that, this group or this bus dropped off this many migrants, but where are all these other people coming from? The U.S. government is actually flying them in.
Oh, definitely. That's why I said they're on both sides. They're both complicit in this. That's why when I talk about it, I don't talk about it from the standpoint of just one side is involved. I said both of them are very complicit, because really, like, when you think about it, let's just use, I call him Governor Wills, but Abbott down there in Texas. You're right there. Your state is right there at the border. You're the closest to the border. Instead of you wanting to be spiteful and send them to Chicago because it's a sanctuary city, you could have easily turned that caravan around and sent them back. But no, you just welcomed and let them all in. And I'm like, and I was looking up stories, and I'm like, you have a not so secret invasion of problem right now going on down in Texas, and you got to blame yourself for that one. As a matter of fact, there was one that I talked about like 2 weeks ago, where you had one who was deported 5 times out of Texas. And the most recent incident that happened was when he unfortunately ran over this little black boy, the senior black boy, and he killed him in a hit and run. He wasn't even supposed to be here. If he was deported and stayed deported, this wouldn't have happened. That little boy will be alive.
Absolutely. Did you hear about the violent attack of the illegal immigrants that they stabbed a black teenager? I think the teenager around 16 years old. He was of age. He was actually trying to protect a female, and they stabbed him roughly 6 times. Now, fortunately, he survived the attack, but I think they round up out of the 6. They only rounded up around 3 of them. And here's the thing: they, like you were stating before, they come over here with a whole different culture. They come over here with a whole different lifestyle. Now, if some of the rumors are correct that they're basically dumping their criminals off into America, we're going to have a lot more violent attacks. We're going to have a lot more rapes. We're going to have a lot more people being unalive. There's going to be a lot more things in America. Someone told me that illegal immigrants do not significantly raise the crime rate. And I say, well, the only thing I do is look at, news. The crime rate is being risen by illegal immigration because of the many crimes they're committing. And the one thing that people are not adding into that percentage is that they're illegal in the country. That's a crime.
Yeah, definitely. Just like, I think when they was talking about, I don't know if you picked up on it or not, but have you noticed that ever since they've started to flood Chicago, you don't really hear those stories about what I like to call those phantom shootings anymore? Like
yes, I don't hear them anymore.
But you will constantly hear about the crime going on up there that's committed by them. Like, I think I read or heard somewhere they said that the homicide is down, but the crime rate is up in Chicago, and it's mainly due to them.
First, I want to shout out Hacksign KT. Thank you for that donation. I do appreciate it. We're going to move on to the next piece here. Now, this is something I pointed out quite some time ago so people can understand. It says immigrant eligibility restriction, categories of immigrants, qualified and not qualified. The 1996 welfare law created 2 categories for immigrants for benefits eligibility purposes, qualified and not qualified, contrary to what these names suggest. The law excluded many people in both groups from eligibility for many benefits, with a few exceptions. The qualified immigrant category includes refugees, people granted asylum or withholding of deportation, removal and conditional entrance, certain abused immigrants, their children and or their parents. Now, I don't know what they go through to qualify or not to qualify or to justify, but everyone is using the guise of refugees or asylum seekers. And the one thing I've done is comb through whether it be Mexico, Central America, and down to the northern part of South America. There's probably 1 or 2 countries that's really in unrest. With the exception of Haiti. We know Haiti is already a fallen state, and if anything, and I'm not again pushing illegal immigration, but if anybody needs to seek asylum, it's probably those innocent civilians in Haiti. And I think another country in Central America that's going through something is maybe Ecuador. But all these other countries, look at El Salvador. They have a lot of MS-13 inside of our country.
Oh yeah,
but El Salvador eradicated all of the crimes, supposedly. They eradicated MS-13.
And now they done popped up here.
I don't know if you heard about this story out of Montana. Native Americans are crying about the Sinaloa cartel, that they're pushing fentanyl inside the community, and they're basically controlling things in certain places in Montana. I just thought Montana was a really weird place to do something to that, to that degree, because they have a large white population there. I was very shocked about that.
Yeah, Montana's one of those states that you don't really hear too much about. It's like you almost forget that it's on the map. But that's very interesting.
As well as, I haven't heard anything about South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming. I haven't really, Utah. I really haven't heard
like none of those rural areas.
Right. I haven't really, but Montana.
They don't dump them there. Like they said, we're going for the metropolitan areas.
Yeah, and then again, we already know this is designed for a particular reason, because if Black Americans are 14-15% of the US population, and we gravitate mostly towards urban cities, most Black Americans, we live probably an hour or less outside of a major city. Of course, you're gonna have some people with farmland and, but a lot of us, because of jobs, opportunities, etc., we live within an hour. So, and then we live in these pockets, and just as well as they did redlining, gentrification, all of these other things, they're dropping them off deliberately in the Black community and then state that, oh, illegal immigrants aren't taking the jobs. Well, if we're not getting the jobs, if Black Americans have one of the highest unemployment rates, then who's taking the jobs?
Exactly.
When you
go look at the landscape of the job, it's like, okay, just for instance, I don't know, you probably have, but if you've ever gone to, say, a McDonald's at a certain time of the day, usually that entire staff is Mexican, or some kind of Spanish speaking group, if it's not Mexican. And I mean, that's the entire staff. Someone at the drive-through, someone working back doing the food, someone who's cleaning, someone who's working the cashier front. It's all someone who's speaking a Spanish, and it's usually, what I noticed from what I've seen, that lunch shift, like that afternoon shift that's right after the morning and before the evening. They usually in that pocket right there. Then on top of that, when you think about when you calling in, or maybe you get one of those automated things, they'll have one in English and then they'll have another in Spanish.
Absolutely, you got to have it in Spanish. And here's the thing: we already know that Spanish is the second unofficial language of America. Yeah, we already know. It's just one of those things. And going back to your point about, you're going to the fast food places that we have in America. So I live in Texas, and let me just tell you, usually, because I'm originally from DC, I will go into a Popeyes and you don't see nothing but Black people.
Definitely.
You go on the Popeyes here, you see nothing but Hispanics. And, every now and again, I think they putting some chalupa on my chicken. I don't want chalupa on my fried chicken. I'm just saying, I'm not, I don't like chalupa on my fried chicken. I just, the state in here. And then last but not least here, and I'm gonna do quite a bit of reading here, family. This is a senator, if I can recall, I think it's from North Carolina, I believe. And it says Tills introduces 2 bills to fix problem caused by illegal immigration. Of course, he's a Republican. And it says here, their NC Republican Senator Tom Tillis introduced 2 bills Tuesday geared towards issue caused by illegal immigration, which remains the most important issue for voters in most polls, including Carolina Journal's most recent poll. The first bill, titled Justice for Victims of Sanctuary Cities Act, would establish a private right of action for any individual, spouse, parent, or child who is a victim of unalive, rape, or any felony as defined by the state to bring an action against a state or a political subdivision of a state if the entity declined to honor a lawful immigration detainer request for an alien by the Department of Homeland Security. In addition, the legislation would require a state or political subdivision of a state to waive immunity as a condition of receiving certain federal grants. So how would you interpret that, Torian?
So is this supposed to be like for the people, like our tax-paying citizens?
For citizens, yeah, of that particular state, yes.
Oh, it's going to get a lot of pushback. I can see it right now, because a lot of these sanctuary cities, they don't want it. They're not trying to like change, but it's so weird. What the con of having these sanctuary cities are. Like, look at what happened in New York with those with the illegals who jumped those cops, and they was in jail 1 minute, and then some of them fled the state. So natural born fleers, they know how to flee their homeland, and they knew how to flee the state when they did what they did. And then they brought them back. And then when they came back, they wasn't in jail very long. And before they was out back to do whatever again, I said, that's your sanctuary city right there. Because for the longest, I kept saying, why do they keep arresting them and letting them back out? And then I learned that's because with it being a sanctuary city, they technically by law cannot hold them.
Correct.
So that's why they flee to these cities, so they can do what they want to get away with whatever it is they want. So yeah, I can see why this bill is definitely being implemented, and I'm for them getting rid of sanctuary cities.
Wow. And now this is the second part. This is the second bill that we're talking about. We have almost 900 people in the room. Thanks for everybody joining us this evening. We have featuring Torn Rain Reloaded. Please go support the brother on Torn Rain Reloaded on his YouTube channel as well as on Twitter and Instagram. It states here the second bill, the Immigration Detainer Enforcement Act, would clarify DHS detainer authority, clearly establish the authority of states and local, I can't even say that word. How you say that word, Torian?
Localities.
Thank you, brother. To maintain custody in cases in which a detainer has been issued and incentivize cooperation between law enforcement agencies and DHS through the reimbursement of certain detention, technology, and litigation-related costs. For far too long, we have watched local jurisdiction in North Carolina and across the country ignore the lawful notification and detainer requests made by ICE agents and instead release the dangerous criminals back into their communities and put innocent lives at risk.
What did I just say?
Goes on a state. Go ahead. What's your comment?
That's exactly what I just said.
Exactly. Tiller said in a press release, it is clear President Biden and liberal politicians want to prioritize reckless sanctuary policy over public safety. It is time for Congress to step in and put an end to this madness by holding sanctuary cities accountable and empowering ICE to gain custody of criminal illegal immigrants so they can't cause more harm and violence. And then, of course, you have your usual suspects here. Let's see. We got Kevin Kramer, Ted Budd, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, of course. I thought I saw Tim Scott in here somewhere.
Yeah, Beaver Mouth was in there.
There he is. Oh, man. We just love you, President Trump. The hell? Boy, these coons, man. Let me tell you. I also wanted to share something with you. It was a clip that I cut up of Dr. Umar. And I just want to know, not about Dr. Umar himself, but what he said. And I just want your take on it to see what you get from it.
So America knows, the entire global white power structure knows that when people are afraid, they will let you get away with murder. If there was no 9/11, the world wouldn't have sat by and let America go in there and do what they did in Afghanistan. So they had to imbibe the world with fear. And anybody who didn't agree with them, they simply said, what? You either with us or you against us. So the small little countries say, even though we don't think this is how this really happened, we got to ride with America because George Bush said they're just going to beat us up and bully us if we don't. The world is not run on law. The world is run on power. And if it's one thing black people need to understand more than anything else, it is the politics and the rules of power. Because we keep on trying to change things with laws, with prayer, with protests, with marches. You need power. Let 1 million black people show up to city council in Washington, D.C. and say we want to end to this or begin into this. They will respond. What are we getting ready for now? A presidential election between Trump and Biden, two white supremacists, neither of which care about black people, neither of which have done anything for black people. But guess what? We're still aligned. Democrat, aligned, Republican. Let's unalign ourselves. Vote as a block. For the first time in American history, every African American is pledging his vote to his people. So we're going to sit down with Trump. We're going to sit down with Biden. We're going to give them a list of demands. How many can you meet? And we're telling you now, if you fail us, you automatically know there won't be a Democratic president the next election. You see that? People say, why do politicians ignore black people? You're not organized to hold them accountable. Get your numbers together and you'll make the world respect you. Organization is in the group. Power is in the group. You see that? Mm-hmm. Victory is a team sport.
I'm not a big fan, I'm not the biggest fan of like Umar, like on a lot of things, but I can't even, disagree with what.
Right, I'm not a fan of Umar Johnson. A lot of things with the whole Pan-Africanism, but the brother does speak very powerful every now and again. So that was very relevant what you say. What do you think about the power he was describing as far as getting together? Like how we had the 1 Million Man March.
Oh, I definitely agree with that part when he's talking about the power, because that's like literally what it's going to take. That's why I said this is going to be a very, very crucial election. As a matter of fact, it's funny you say that when we talk about this right now. I was just like in passing, just happened to have TV on, and they had Simone Sanders. I call her linebacker Bill. I have a nickname for a lot of people. Yeah. And I had heard her say something. And it made me like almost do the owl head turn, because I was like, wait, did I just hear her say that? she said along the lines, I can't remember exactly what she said, but I do remember this. She says people are online, or just people in general are talking about when it comes to voting, and then she mentioned the couch. I said, "Oh, really? Now the couch?" I said, "Right, there you go." And so when she said that, I was like, they do be watching us. They do be listening to us. They may not come outright and say that they watch us, but certain things that comes out of their mouth lets us know where they got it from, because Simone Sanders and the people over at MSNBC did not come up with the, vote for the couch or couch 2024. That came from us. Let's be real here. Like, a lot of them get their cues from us. I'm gonna be honest, some of them wish they weren't even tethered to those networks. They probably wish they could speak as freely as we are, because they can't, because they're bound by a contract. Look at what's going on with what's her name? Tiffany Cross, aka Big Sister Loudmouth. She said all of that. She was in the line for so long, and she said all she said for so long until they got rid of her, and now she out here on her podcast with Angela Rye and Andrew Gillum, trying to cop please. I'm like, well, I mean,
don't call him Andrew Gillum. Call him Bussy Gillum.
Well, I mean, my nickname for him was Andrew Phillum.
Oh my gosh! What are your? Go ahead.
But yeah, like that's like they got that whole. I said a trifecta of losers over there. That's what I call it.
Now, what are your? I mean, I think I know already, but I'd rather you say it. What are your thoughts? Let's first talk about Joe Biden. We always have to remember what he told Black folk when he was running for the presidency in 2020.
Vice President Biden, do you support reparations?
Look, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come.
So first, the question was about reparations.
Yeah.
Right. And then they were talking about, he said, I knew I was going to be asked this question. And then he went right to immigration. He said, we're the country we are because of immigration. What are your thoughts on Joe Biden?
He told you right there what his plan was before he got into office. This was during the debates to be, to run, because Obama was getting ready to leave, right?
Right.
So you're talking about back in 2016. He told you right there on that stage, on that debate stage, what he planned to do and for whom. Because the lady asked him about reparations. She didn't ask him about immigration. He said he knew he was going to get asked this question and then went right into immigration. He told you right there what he was getting ready to do. I don't know how anybody missed that, if anybody was paying attention.
Now, I'm going to jump to Trump, but I want to come back to, again, just a refresher.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do.
I mean, one of the most disrespectful things that someone can ever say to you.
That's right up there with Kamala being interviewed by that woman, and she told her that she wasn't going to do anything specifically for black people. It's right up there for me.
I usually have that clip loaded too. I have it, but I just don't have it on hand. But I'm gonna come back to Joe Biden. Because I do want to cover Donald Trump. I know your stance on Joe Biden. Now I want to know your stance on Donald Trump, and do you believe if he is a good candidate for Black Americans? But wait, let me let you hear this.
Pastor Mark Burns. Mark, where are you? Where's Mark Burns? He's a great guy. Good. These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? We've all seen the mugshot. And You know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing.
Now, let me just say this real quick. I thought that was just as disrespectful as what Joe Biden said, right? Because if a light is shining in your eye, everybody's black.
Yeah, right. That spotlight. Yeah, you can't see it all. Yeah.
But hold on. He was at the Black Conservative Federation, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure majority of the people were black. So why say that?
Exactly.
And then he said, he's not talking about tangibles. He's not talking about resources. He's not talking about benefits. He's talking about these trivial things like, oh, I can only see the black people. Well, majority black. But again, then he talks about black people like my mugshot. What? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when I first saw that, I'm not surprised. First off, you got to think about who he was talking to. The Black Conservative Confederation. Like, really just think about who he was talking to. He was not talking to people like you and myself at all. Like, he knew exactly who to say that to. No one who's going to push back, people who are going to kiss his ass, bow down and kiss the ring, bend the knee. He knew exactly who to say that to. That's why they were up there clapping when he said it. I'm like, you do realize you're being insulted. And let's not forget about the that correspondent that from like a week ago was trying to say, oh, Trump is going to get support from black people because of his shoes, because black people love shoes.
I had it up here too. I covered that too, brother.
So I'm like, do y'all not see? That's why I keep telling people, two wings attached to the same buzzard. They do the same exact thing. Their verbiage may be different, but they're both insulting to each other. That's why I keep telling people, don't tell me like one side is better than the other. No, they're equally bad. They cancel themselves out all the time, especially with these two right here, Biden and Trump. I'm like, let's not forget Trump's history. This is the same guy that took out a whole full-page ad to bring death to 5 boys in New York for an alleged violation that they did not commit. Even then, they cleared them, and still to this day, he has never given them an apology. He still stands firm that they were the ones that did it, even though DNA cleared them, and they actually got the guy who actually did it.
No, Torian. I don't want to have you lying on my broadcast, brother.
April. Mr. President, will you apologize to Central Park 5? They've been exonerated. There have been videos and movies shown about the case, and you came out with a full-page ad saying that they should die, that they should have the death penalty.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
I have no idea what the hell Trump was talking about. The lady basically said that they've been exonerated. They actually have the person who raped that woman from the DNA test, and he doubled down on what he said about the Central Park 5, which was untrue.
Exactly. And again, he has these supporters that will go out and ride for him. And I'm like, if you are a black person and you support him even after that. And the thing is, there's so many more examples, but that one right there really, really sticks out to a lot of people because it happened in 89. I was born in 89, so I wouldn't remember it. So I heard about it years later, and then I saw the miniseries that Ava DuVernay did on Netflix. And I'm gonna tell you, I could not watch that more than one time, especially part 2. That was a one-time watch for me. And when I began to talk about it, because I did a review for it and everything, I had to calm. It took me about 30 minutes after I finished watching it for me to calm myself down from being mad and going through a different ball of emotions so I can get my words coherent before I even press record to record a single thing. Because it was like, and it was late too, because I was watching, it was almost 11 o'clock at night when I was watching it, like finishing it up. And it took me almost to 12 o'clock midnight to get everything out because I couldn't even keep still. I was constantly being so fidgety, almost like a person going through withdrawals. I never had something like that do that to me before after watching that. And so hearing him, say that, I keep going back to, I said, if there was ever a slight chance that I could ever give him some support, I can't go all the way in just because of that alone.
So with that being said, I pose another question to you. Now, before I pose this question to you, I have to do this.
I'm setting up with this stuff. I got him down here. Oh, police got him. Yeah. What did he do? He been walking down the street and that was a shoot.
I see you found Terrence K. Williams' ancestor.
Who is the best candidate for Black Americans out of Joe Biden and Donald Trump?
I'm a registered independent, so I can't say either one.
I mean, you can say either one. I mean, listen, I don't belong to any party because you become a party hoe. That's my claim to fame. You become a party hoe. My party is Black empowerment. So I'm just asking, this your opinion, It's not a trick question.
Neither one.
So who are we voting for then?
It's on your shirt.
This shirt?
On the back.
Oh, this shirt.
Yep. I'm gonna be right there. I'm gonna be right there on November 5th, sitting there with my couch. And if I manage to get an I voted sticker, I'll put it right there on the couch. I'm gonna have a bowl of popcorn and have my feet kicked up. I'm gonna be like Michael Jackson in the Thriller video, just watching the results. Because I told people, I said, when that date comes, it's gonna be a lot of smiles, but there's going to be a way more sad faces. A lot of people going to be crying, tears. It's probably going to be a lot of people that's angry. I said, even those who feel like they're going to get a win out of this, they're probably not going to get a win in the long run. That's going to be just a temporary feeling.
There was something you said, because we were talking about Kamala Harris and you were talking about that clip. So I think it's only proper if we remind our audience here of Kamala Harris and what she said.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people may forget what Kamala Harris, whether she's Indian or Jamaican or...
I call her Kamala the Chameleon for a reason.
But don't forget she went, isn't she an AKA or a Delta or...
Yeah, she's an AKA and she went to Howard.
Yeah,
so remember remember the time when she was at Howard, she said she was listening to Snoop Dogg's album.
And remember the time she wore the Chuck Taylors, like she thought she was trying to relate. But without further ado, let's see.
Do you support reparations for Black people?
Well, listen. Again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
The
Wow.
fact that she just sat up there and just blatantly lied with a straight face the way that she did, talking about whatever policies we make will benefit for black people, will benefit everybody. No, it will not. Y'all, when it came to signing that anti-Asian hate crime bill, was that beneficial to black people? No, that was beneficial just for them. Whatever you did for the academy was specifically for them, and whatever you got lined up and rolled out for the illegal immigrants, that's specifically for them. But then notice too, she did the same thing that Joe Biden did when he was asked that same question during the Democratic debate in 2016 when it came to reparations. She asked her, what is your thought of reparations, for black people? She started going on this roundabout tangent that had nothing to do with reparations. I don't even think she even said reparations. Maybe she said it one time, but it was like a blink and you'll miss it type of thing. And then just came right back to saying that she can't do anything specifically for black people, but she's done things specifically for any other group that's not black people. Again, how people miss that, I'm not sure. And keep in mind, this is the same woman who was polling very, very low when she was running for president. She came in dead last. And the only reason she's where she's at now is because, unfortunately, you had some brain dead Negroes talking about Joe Biden. You need to pick a black woman to be your running mate. And you picked her, a woman with a clear cut identity crisis. Hey, they got as far as I'm concerned, they got what they voted for when they voted for her in particular. Some of them probably went in that booth and didn't even check Joe Biden. They just probably wrote Kamala Harris. Well, by default, they had to click clues in because her name would be next one. But in their eyes, that's what they were doing. And it just it just be like, whenever they say she's the first black woman, they'll say she's the first black woman in one breath. And then they say, wait a minute, no, Indian. Then she's she's Asian and all these other things. I'm like, you gotta pick one. Like, what's really going on? And her going to Howard and her pledging AKA does not make her a black woman, because I went to an HBCU and I know some people who pledged sororities and fraternities and they weren't black either. And we were not about to go around calling them black.
I guess the question I have is, why in the hell are black folk still voting for politicians that are not targeting our issues, whereas though you just ran through a whole plethora of groups of people who have received either protections or benefit or resources. I was reading the other day, and I think I covered it, where Jewish Americans in certain states are receiving protection laws on a state level that they be considered hate crimes. So when I think about Kamala Harris and the things she stated about the LIFT Act and all that bull crap, as well as Joe Biden being disrespectful, being asked the question of reparations and then deflecting from that, and then talking about if you don't vote for me, you're not black. And then we still, 80% of us, 87% of us went out and vote for these two. It's staggering to me. Now, here's a question I have for you, Torian. Let's take, for instance, you was not a foundational black American. Who would you be voting for?
Well, give me an ethnicity.
I don't want to say Hispanic because then that'd be too easy.
South of the border.
I know. Middle America white person.
They're most likely Trump.
Okay. And why is that?
Because that's his base right there. That's the ones who think that he's speaking directly to them, even though they're not really receiving much either. I mean, look at Owsley County, Kentucky, for example. If you want a reference point.
And I think another question, because when you comb through this and you show people the truth, right? You're not speaking in conjecture, not speaking in rhetoric, not trying to manipulate or coerce the information. Why are we as a group continually to support political parties that does nothing, that targets our most harmful, our most degrading issues in the black community? Why do you believe that we're still going out voting for people?
Well, there's a couple of things. One of them is because a lot of people, unfortunately, still fall for that lesser of two evils crap. I'm Correct. Like, the key word there is evil. It doesn't matter which one is more evil than the other. The key word there is evil. The other one is, for me, is a lot of them are grifting. So they got to play a part in order to continue to keep them lights on. to keep that food on the table, to keep them throw the clothes on, and to keep peddling all of this stuff. I don't know if you've seen it recently, but the GOP just gutted their minority outreach program. So that means, and I said in a video that I did about Matt Gaetz, when he said he was trying to diversify like MAGA or whatever it was, his constituents like Matt Walsh and all of them came in there and had to put a halt to what he was saying. They said, so you're going to alienate your main base, which is white people, to bring in other groups of people? Like, how does that work? So the GOP just recently gutted their minority outreach program. So that means if you are not considered to be white, if you fall in the category of anything other than that, they have basically said, we are done with you. And the crazy part about it is that's going to be their own undoing, because if they kept that minority outreach program in there, that would actually help them spread more. But they said, no, we are keeping it lily white. There actually used to be something called the lily white movement way back when, like during Jim Crow and all of that stuff. Right. That's what they want to go back to. At least that's how it's reading to me. Like I said, both sides have proven without the shadow of a doubt that they are not for black people. They don't want us to demand anything. They don't want us to have anything, and that's fine. You won't have whatever it is that you're seeking for. Don't come to us asking for anything. And the thing is, we're not even asking for much. We are just demanding, reparations and tangibles, anti-black hate crime bill, and get rid of qualified immunity.
That's it. You be sneaking on my channel? You be sneaking on my channel listening to me?
Listen, I watch everybody in the new black media. So it's like, it's not an original thought. It's like, so I just pull from other people. I said, those are the main three things that I think that we really demand. And it's not much. It is not much. It's not asking or demanding much.
Not consider what they're giving other people. And I told someone, I said, reparations is just not cash payment. That's just the first thing. The cash payments is the first thing, but that's not the only thing. Okay. I was listening to some video clip, and they had some old Negro on there talking about, and they said, hey, should reparation be cash payments? And he said, no, I wish I had the clip. And he said, no, it should be land. And I was just like, you can buy land with the money, because he was stating
with the cash.
Yeah, he was stating that black Americans are going to go out and buy Gucci and this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, if you give me land and I don't have money to develop the land, because he said you need land. He said, well, you need money, but you need land first. I'm like, well, I can just sell the land and get the money, but then I don't have the land. But if I have money, I can go buy the land and develop it. Like,
exactly.
You have a lot of people have
backwards thinking.
A lot of old Negroes that are really putting black people on a path of destruction.
You know why they keep saying that? Because that's probably what they did.
That's true.
They're telling you right now what they would do. I wouldn't trust them to manage a roll of quarters, let alone trillions of dollars.
Now, Ms. Ruby states here that FBA can't take another Biden presidency. We will be sunk under the auspices of illegal immigrants, and other people will never rise from under these people. Now, this is a misnomer here. I was reading a story, and I think somebody else put it on social media, of how law enforcement are locking up black people and labeling them as white. Have you heard about that?
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, they're labeling them as white to not only incarcerate more black folk and skew the numbers, right? You see, it's kind of, how white supremacy, takes both sides of the narrative, but lock up more black people and the guys as white, as though white people are still committing more crimes, but they're trying to kind of fudge the numbers, so to speak, so they can lock up more black people. It's really a devious, a demonic plan to label black folk, because what the news was showing is how all these black folk had white and then their picture was black.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
You have to look into it, brother. It's very let's see here. We got Cyber9. Thank you for that donation. I do appreciate it. We do appreciate it here in Black Logic. Let's see here. Ms. Ruby also states, you have a civil rights bill. You have a civil rights bill. The Republicans outside of Trump might want to do a lot, but they can't The Democrats will sink you. The borders have to be closed. We don't have the numbers. Now, the false thing about this, and not to go against you, Ms. Ruby, it's not that I or anyone else have the civil rights bill. The civil rights bill is for everybody. It's not targeted for Black Americans.
It's for Black people. It should have. Black people helped start it, helped it to get kicked
right.
off.
We fought for it. Yeah, we fought for it.
But then they spread it out to everybody. It became a All Lives Matter bill before All Lives Matter was a thing. Because it doesn't say Black civil rights, it just says civil rights.
Kurt L says, I got some questions you guys should pose but never do. What's your question?
And
My brother, go ahead, brother.
And just like with reparations, that's why they keep pushing back against reparations, because they can't find a way to have us come to a agreement to have it be for everybody. If we would have just kowtow and bend the knee and say, you know what, we give up, let it be for everybody, they would sign that reparations over in a heartbeat. We would end up getting the crumbs, of course, if we get anything at all. But because we're standing adamant that it should only be for us, that's why they keep saying, oh, here's a task force here. Oh, let's do another study. Let's do another outreach. Oh, let's redefine what reparations actually is. And because we're not budging, it's probably gotten them turning as red as a beet right now. And it's an election year too. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a lot of disappointed people come November the 5th.
Now, I wonder, because anytime I bring this up, I know that people, they get butt hurt. So how much reparations in cash should be? Have you did the numbers? Have you heard
I remember when I first started to like really look at it, like when reparations really started to get into a space of being talked about on a more consistent basis. Mm-hmm. This was probably before the pandemic. They said that they calculated 16 to 20 trillion.
Right.
At the time.
Now I'm saying, given those numbers, how much should each Foundation of Black American receive?
It should, if they split it, let's hypothetically say that it is like, let's say, they said it's what, 45 million of us in the establishment. Right. I would say that it should be if we were to split it evenly, each family, it would be in the hundreds. It would probably be in the hundreds of billions, almost knocking damn near. I would say in the hundreds of billions, and I'm not talking low hundreds. I'm talking about 500 and up.
Now I think I spoke. You ever spoke to our brother Marcel Dixon before? You ever spoke to him?
Yeah, I've had him on my channel.
Yeah, likewise, me too. And I think the number that they're really pushing for each one of us to receive, it was anywhere between $2 to $3 million. What's your take on that?
Now you know that's low balling it.
But it's definitely low balling it. But I think it's because at one time I think even I was talking about based upon some figures I was reading that we should all receive 350,000, and then after me and brother Marcel was speaking and breaking down the amount of money that has been accumulated, with a little bit of interest. But I think 2 to 3 million is very feasible, and you're gonna get some people in the comments, gonna get some people in the chat probably stating that that's going to bankrupt America. And just as well as he knows and I know, because I used to do a lot with finance, that America is a monetary sovereign. And that's why we can print money. That's why we can be $34 trillion in debt, and the country is running like ain't nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the number. I mean, even though it's supposed to be more, I guess the question would be now versus, let's say, $1 billion versus 2 to 3 million. Would you settle for 2 or 3 million? Would you, if they say, you know, we're going to award each Foundation of Black American $3 million? What is your take on that?
Well, you got to ask yourself this other question: would the Jews accept that? Have they accepted that? Have they accepted that? And remember, they've been getting paid hand over fist for how long? For decades, and they still receiving. And I highly doubt that they received $2 to $3 million over the course of that time. So you got to ask yourself that question: would they accept that? Most likely, no. So
Okay.
answer to my question to your question is no. That's way too low.
Okay.
And with inflation, that money will be gobbled up very fast. So nah.
It will be, yeah, it will go very quickly, especially if you don't utilize it correctly. Here's the thing: what you said about Jewish Americans, that a lot of people they'll kind of give you the argument, well, you wasn't enslaved, you wasn't this, you wasn't that, and I say, well, did you know that the Holocaust survivors, as well as their descendants, have been receiving reparations, not only from Germany, but from America as well? And did you know that the Native Americans, they're receiving reparations till this day, and they're not the ones who went through the genocide when they first came, so-called pilgrimage over to America? So we have groups of people in America that are receiving reparations from America, but as soon as we step up and say something, there's a problem.
Yeah, it's always like some kind of an issue, and I meant to actually say this when Kamala Harris was up there babbling. She lowballed how many years of slavery it actually was. Notice she said 200. She just knocked out half of it. It was over 400, and she only said 200. So she lowballed that. But I just had to go mention that part. But yeah, whenever we bring up reparations and they try to make it seem like, oh, it's not deserved and all this, that, and the third, like I said, it's going back to competition. Keep in mind what happened when we got off the plantation, when our ancestors were finally quote unquote free and started to build up their own towns. What happened? They ended up getting destroyed. They just didn't want us to compete with them.
You'll have people too say, well, yeah, I believe in cash reparations, but when you hit the butt, you already know the trick bag is coming, right?
As I always say, whenever somebody says "but," bullshit is soon to follow right after.
And so they'll say, but if we do get cash payment, I'm bucking my eyes. If we do get cash payment reparations, then Black Americans need some financial literacy class. And the only thing I want to tell them people to their face, and I don't want to be derogatory, I'm not a violent person, but I just want to say, shut up, nigga. Shut up. Shut up. No other group. No other group is talking about they need financial literacy classes. If Tyrone, Pookie, Ray, Lil Mike, Lil Rail, whoever, if they want to go out and buy Gucci, Fendi, Lambos, then let them. There's going to be more than 50% of Black Americans that will go out and build businesses, buy land, do things that are going to further better ourselves versus just going out and buy a bunch of materialistic things. And I think that lies a problem. We have a lot of coons, we have a lot of Sambos, and then we have people, and I hate to bring him up because I really say his name, Roly Poly Mart. And unfortunately, you look at
Wet Yan Martin.
Right. I look at his channel, I'm like, how in the do you have 1 million subscribers? Like, how? Who's listening to your dumb ass? And anytime you go against Democrats, anytime you like, you gonna sit on the couch, you stupid fools. And I'm just like,
yep, that's the other thing that you got to deal with when it comes to that particular side. And then, like I said, when it comes to Republicans, you got to deal with your Charlie Kirks and your Matt Walshes and Candace Owens and all of them. So it's not only trying to be on one particular side or the other. It's also dealing with what comes with it or who comes with it.
I think that allows a problem that, unfortunately, to a certain degree, we have some influential people who are leading foundational Black Americans astray because they pose as one of us. And that is why a lot of people in the new Black media are calling out people's lineage to let them know they're not even foundational Black Americans. They're not even qualified for reparations. But they're speaking about it. Now, there's one brother in the new Black media. I give him a bunch of credit. I'm always listening to him, and he's on code. That's TD Hip Hop Media, I think he changed his title to TD Media Group. Now, that brother, I can rock.
Shout out to CD. I'm familiar with CD.
Yeah, he speaks truth to power all the time. So Unfortunately, we have very few of people because I believe
shout out to Kid Gravity.
Okay, I'm familiar with Kid Gravity. I believe TD is from Jamaica. I think his lineage is from Jamaica.
No, he's Haitian.
Haitian. Okay, hey,
you're right. Kid Gravity, his lineage is from Jamaica.
Okay, I got them mixed up. Okay, thank you. And so those brothers are on code, and we have very few of them because we know whether it be TikTok, Twitter. My question is, why do we have so many people? And I know it's jealousy. I know it's a lot of other things. Speaking out against our claim to reparations, where they don't even have a pot to piss in about it.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like prior to us really being on talking about reparations in the way that we're doing it now, you really never heard anything from them like that. And it's like the minute that we started to like say we're talking about delineating and everything like that, it's like they got scared. I think they're realizing it's like, fine, we're all part of the diaspora. We all are under the umbrella of Black, but there are different factions, there are different tribes, and y'all have established that y'all are like a different tribe as well based on your country of origin. Like if you're here, like if you're Jamaican, you've already established you're Jamaican American. If you were born here, first generation born Haitian American, whatever the case may be, but we were born here. We're foundational to this land, and we want to like do our own thing. We'll meet somewhere in the middle. It is what it is. And if for some reason it's like when we decided to do that, that's when the fangs started to show. Like they really started to show their true colors. And I think it's because a lot of them have been riding our coattails for so long that now that we want to do our own thing, now they have to go and do their own thing without hanging on to us or waiting for us to make the move first. I always tell people that foundational Black Americans are the trendsetters of the world. Whatever we find to be trendy at the time, or whatever we do that's trendy at the time, the world is going to follow us. They may never admit that, but like when you really look at the landscape, it really, really is from the way that we dress, the food that we eat, the music we listen to, the music we create, how we act, how we talk, all of that, how we dance. Like it's
all over the world, all over
the world. You cannot go to any four corners of this earth and not find some kind of an influence of something that we have done, whether it's someone on a big scale or even someone on a small scale. Our influence is everywhere. I remember watching a video back years ago. I think I was probably in high school. This was in the early stages of YouTube. And there was a video that I saw where it was these two Japanese girls who were heavily influenced by hip hop culture, quote unquote, here in the States. And they did everything that they could to try to look like some of the girls that they saw in these hip hop videos. Like I'm talking about getting their hair with the braids. You know,
a lot of Asian guys are doing cornrows and plaits.
And this is back in 2007. So this is back before even now. I saw them getting the braids. Some of them even applied makeup on that was darker than theirs, so they could look like they had like a tan, like to make their skin look more browner than what it was. Even down to the nails that they would get. They even had different posters up on the wall, the music they would listen to and how they dressed it. And they basically said it like who they liked looking at. They liked our culture almost damn near more than they liked their own.
Here's my last thing I want to cover with you, brother. I really want to know your take on that, take on this rather. But just like any other time, I know some people will get offended, so gotta always pop up that trigger warning. I'm gonna show you two very quick clips, and you already know what nucleus of Black folk I'm referring to when I show you these two very quick clips, okay? Because there's a problem, there's an issue, and the group of people I'm referring to have a lot of influence that can sway Black people one way or another, and it's going to be very hard to get them on board. But nonetheless, without further ado,
I would have been swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up? Have you gone through a time of swallowing where everything was overwhelming?
Look at your neighbor and say, he's a meat stretcher. He'll stretch your meat.
And just the other day, I was on Twitter and I was looking at a church and they were singing some sort of, secular song.
Mhm.
And it was just mind blowing that they was singing this song in church. And I'm just trying to figure out what happened to the church. I mean, I had to stop going. I really had to stop going to church because it became, I don't want to say it became depressing, but it became very, very confusing of where they were leading our people to. I don't know where they were leading black folk to. I'm trying to find you this other clip I have over here on Twitter. But they were here it is. Let me show this very quickly. Let me show this. I don't know what this is about.
That's the Church of Sexy Red.
I mean, it's just not right.
And it's a I didn't know it was a funeral until they panned back and I saw the casket.
And here's the thing, she up there.
Yeah, she thinks she in a club or at a house party.
I'm like, what the hell is going on there in church? They got grandma in there with the shades on. I don't know. I mean,
what? What in? That's what. Okay. But like I said, she looks like. But like I said, she looks like. But like I said, she looks like Sexy Red.
Yeah,
That's the crazy part.
I can't listen. And this is why the new black media is so significant, because we're gonna call out the buffoonery in our culture while other people act like their culture don't have a lot of bull crap too, because this is not the culture. Now, as far as the black church and culture is concerned, you'll get a lot of people always stating in your mentions, in your DMs, talking about that black Americans don't have culture. I even heard a guy, he wasn't even black American, talking about we don't have a culture. And I done at least 5 broadcasts of how black Americans have culture. We've modernized the world. When you look at the inventions and innovations, there's things I tell people today that people don't even know that black Americans either innovated or either invented. Like, I'll just give one. Vivian Thomas cured the blue baby syndrome, and he wasn't even a doctor. So when you look at great achievements like that, and of course we know a whole slew of them, that is our culture. Our culture are building, or is innovating and inventing. So when people say, well, black Americans, they didn't, you guys were under the hand of the slave master, you guys didn't build anything. We have pictures, we have manuscripts, we have logs, we have records that show, even this country reported who built these things. And matter of fact, I thought I had a clip up here of Trump. I don't know if I have it anymore, but he was basically stating who built the country. It was in rebuttal to what Joe Biden was saying on the State of the Union address, that immigrants built the country.
Oh yeah, I know what clip you're talking about. I saw that clip.
Yeah. So, and I was saying how some black folk are going to vote for Trump simply based upon that.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people vote just because of hearing something that makes them feel good. Like a lot of feel good voters. So they tell them what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear, what they should hear. That's what they know that they'll do, and they like to do that a lot with a lot of black voters who, because they feel a lot of black people are politically inept.
I just came back from Kenya not too long ago, and the very same things that we report on, and this is not to be divisive at all. I only saw it one time, and I saw something very similar when I was in Ghana. When I was in Ghana, we was in the vehicle and we were driving down the road, and we literally saw a woman, an older woman. She probably was in her late 40s, mid 50s, and broad daylight. It was Sunday, She was on the side of the road, and she was in this really nice, African garment, and she squatted and started peeing. And then when we was in Kenya, we was on a walking tour, and this was in Nairobi, and we just saw shit on the ground. And I don't really talk about other countries when I travel about them. I'm just there to, pick up game, get some knowledge, get some historical references. And of course, I'm still scoping out the landscape and stuff like that. It's not like I'm moving there or anything like that. But I like to travel. I like to visit all these other countries because you do gain more insight. But when I hear people from these countries say things about us, even in Japan have hidden slums. A lot of people don't know that Japan have hidden slums, but they will do these comparisons on Twitter and TikTok and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's no comparison. There's really no comparison. Even our worst neighborhoods are better than some of their mid-level, middle income neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But a lot of people won't know this. Just for a Google search, you really have to go and travel and drive around the country because a lot of these things are being hidden from mainstream media and all in general.
Oh, definitely. And one person that comes to mind is ramen noodles. Vivek.
What?
That's what I call them. I told you I have a nickname for almost everybody. Call them ramen noodles, or Dinesh D'Souza.
Where you originally from, Tori?
Huh?
Where you originally from?
I'm from Maryland.
Did you know I was from DC?
I think I heard you say it before.
We never, you know what? Growing up, I wasn't familiar with the term ramen noodles. I mean, of course, when I got my 20s or whatever, I was familiar with it. But you know what we used to call them? Oodles and noodles.
Oodles and noodles. Yeah, oodles and noodles. Yep.
We used to call it oodles and noodles.
Mm-hmm.
It states that we're always at least 20 years ahead of the rest of the world. They have to catch up to us. Derek Parker. Every time I hear people say that even our people at times, I just start rolling my eyes. Thank you. That's a really good point. I've heard foundational Black Americans say that we don't have any culture, and it's because they don't know their history. They don't even know their present. I say, they say, well, name an invention, name something that Black American has done. I say, well, I can name you Moses West, the one who made the atmospheric water generator that literally captures moisture out of the air and generate potable drinking water. That's recent. That's now. He went to Flint. He went to Jackson, Mississippi, and he provided fresh drinking water for those brothers and sisters. And even during that time, people tried to sabotage his invention.
Right.
So we got Ms. Ruby donating. Thank you, sister. I do appreciate your donations. Okay. Shout out goes out to Uman Johnson. Donations. All right, family. We're gonna go ahead and close out here. So you guys have any comments, please put them in the chat. So Torian, what's your last comments here, brother, on the topic that we covered? What do you think about those two laws that are being proposed in the state of North Carolina? You think they're gonna get passed? You think they're gonna get pushed?
We'll see how far it goes, but I'm not being optimistic that it will. I'm telling you, that is going to get a lot of pushback, although it shouldn't, but realistically speaking, it most likely will.
Wow.
They pushed back against everything else at this point. It's clear and obvious they have a reason for wanting them here.
Absolutely. How can people reach you as far as social media? Please shout out your social media channels, please.
Okay. Well, first off, you can subscribe to me here on YouTube. My YouTube is Torian Rain Reloaded. You can find me. I'm also on Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's at Torian Rain Reloaded. On Instagram, I'm Torian_Rain.
All right. Thank you, brother, for joining me here. If you can just wait a minute as we close out. I got some ending notes for you in the back channel after we end the broadcast. I want to thank everybody here of joining me and Torian Rain Reloaded for this important discussion. Not only about the benefits. I know we've covered the benefits, the resources that a lot of the illegal immigrants are receiving, but I think it's significant that states are now, especially the senators, because a state may be mostly ran by Democrats, but the opposing executive branch, when it comes to the congressmen, the senators, etc., if they are Republican, they seem as though they're creating laws to essentially curtail illegal immigration in their states. But nonetheless, family, we thank you here for joining us. Be one to the family, and I see you guys on the next one. You guys have a great evening.